Have you ever pulled a tub of vanilla out of your freezer on a 40-degree February afternoon, left it on the bench for half an hour, and returned to find a warm, spongy dome of white foam that refused to melt? If real dairy melts into liquid cream under heat, what on earth have you been feeding your family? We have all stood in front of the fluorescent freezer cabinets at Woolworths or Coles, reaching blindly for the nostalgic blue box or that gold foil stick we grew up with, convinced we were buying rich Australian milk and golden honeycomb. The brutal reality is that while the packaging has stayed frozen in your childhood memories, the contents inside have been systematically gutted by food scientists working on razor-thin corporate margins. By the end of this breakdown, you will know precisely which frozen sticks are loaded with industrial shortening. You will see how multinational conglomerates use legal loopholes to sell you sweetened tap water and whipped air, and we will crack open the laboratory data on 12 supermarket staples you need to bin immediately. Most importantly, you will walk away knowing the top 11 clean alternatives that actually deserve your money this summer. Stick around until the final entries of the blacklist, because the single most shocking offender is not an ultra-cheap budget carton, but a wildly popular, self-proclaimed guilt-free tub that charges top-tier money for a chemical cocktail that wrecks your gut. To understand how Australian supermarket freezers became a dumping ground for industrial chemistry, you need to understand how genuine ice cream is made versus what factory accountants prefer to manufacture. Authentic ice cream requires only 4 fundamental elements: full cream fresh milk, fresh dairy cream, egg yolks for natural lecithin binding, and unrefined sugar. When churned slowly, it incorporates just enough air to yield a dense, velvety custard that melts smoothly on the tongue at body temperature. But fresh dairy cream is expensive, spoils quickly, and cuts deeply into profit margins. To slash costs, industrial food manufacturers turn to high-shear mechanical aeration and high overrun processing. Overrun is the volume of compressed air pumped into the mixture during churning. While artisan gelato incorporates roughly 20% air, mass-market supermarket tubs are routinely inflated with 100 to 120% air by volume. That means when you buy a standard 2-litre tub for $6, you are paying for more than 1 litre of whipped factory atmosphere trapped inside a fragile matrix of vegetable oil and water. Because whipped tap water and skim milk powder cannot hold their shape without collapsing into an icy slush, factories deploy a synthetic chemical scaffold. You will recognize them on the back of the carton as numbers 471 and 476, mono and diglycerides of fatty acids and polyglycerol polyracinoleate, combined with an impenetrable wall of industrial gums, including guar gum, locust bean gum, cellulose gel, and carrageenan. These compounds act like liquid plasticizers, preventing ice crystals from forming during temperature fluctuations in shipping containers and locking whipped water into an artificial suspension that defies standard thermodynamics. The most insidious swap of all is dairy fat replacement. Instead of fresh butterfat, manufacturers substitute hydrogenated palm kernel oil and fractionated coconut oil. These vegetable fats possess a much higher melting threshold than natural dairy fat, coating the inside of your mouth with a persistent, waxy film. You think you are indulging in rich country cream, but your body is processing cheap, highly refined industrial palm fat wrapped in synthetic vanillin. Let us head straight into the freezer aisle to expose the worst culprits lining the shelves. We kick off at number 12 with Coles and Woolworths Family Variety Multi-Pack Ice Greens. Sold across Australia for around $6.50 a box, this 10-pack promises 4 childhood flavours to keep the whole house happy. But flipping the box reveals a chaotic nutritional mismatch. The mint chocolate stick delivers over 9 grams of saturated fat in a single 50-gram serving, chewing through 45% of an adult daily limit before dinner. Independent testing by consumer groups identified palm oil and cheap coconut shortening masquerading behind generic vegetable fat labeling, alongside emulsifier 471 and carob bean gum doing the heavy lifting. The texture is unmistakably rubbery, leaving a greasy film across the roof of your mouth. As food technologist Dr. Martin Cole noted in a recent food integrity panel, variety packs are engineered to standardize cost, not quality, leaving your family with different chemical cocktails under one friendly generic banner. Moving to number 11, we have Peter's Original. Peter's has marketed itself as the great Australian ice cream since 1907, a household giant owned by multinational consortium Froneri. But pick up a standard 4-litre tub for $10.50 and examine the legal wording carefully. The word ice cream has been quietly stripped from the front label on several budget lines in favour of frozen dessert. Food Standards Australia New Zealand mandates a minimum 10% milk fat for genuine ice cream, whereas this formula relies on reconstituted skim milk, tap water, glucose syrup, and cheap vegetable oil. It scoops with an unnatural marshmallow-like sponginess that never turns to liquid cream, merely collapsing into a foamy puddle. A verified Coles shopper review sums it up. It tastes like sweetened shaving foam and leaves an oily sheen on your spoon. You are paying for industrially whipped air and palm fat disguised as Australian heritage. At number 10 sits the iconic Streets Paddle Pop. Generations of Aussies grew up buying chocolate, banana, and rainbow sticks from the school canteen. Today, a 10-pack at Woolworths retails for around $9.50, costing nearly $1 per stick for essentially 45 grams of reconstituted dairy solids, sugar, and vegetable oil. The classic chocolate recipe relies on compound chocolate made with palm oil rather than pure cocoa butter, held rigid by emulsifier 471 and guar gum. In the mouth, it dissolves with an icy, watery grit rather than dairy richness. Nutritionist Rosemary Stanton has repeatedly flagged that modern versions of these canteen classics rely far more heavily on refined sugars and thickeners than the whole milk recipes of the 1980s. Nostalgia blinds us to the fact that we are feeding our kids thickened, sugary water on a wooden stick. That brings us to number 9, Peter's Frosty Fruits. Marketed across the country as the ultimate fruit-forward thirst quencher on a sweltering beach day, this 8-pack retails for $9. But look past the vibrant tropical graphics of oranges and pineapples and check the fine print. Reconstituted fruit juice makes up barely 20 to 25% of the total recipe, with water, refined sugar, and glucose syrup providing the bulk of the volume. Colorings like curcumin and carotene give the visual illusion of fresh fruit pulp, stabilized with tara gum. On the tongue, it delivers an aggressive sugar burn followed by watery slush rather than authentic fruit fiber. You are paying over $20 a kilo for sweetened water dyed with yellow extracts. At number 8, we need to talk about Streets Calippo. The famous squeeze tube is a staple at every servo and corner dairy, but Unilever has turned it into a masterclass in format shrinkage and cost creep. A single tube at the checkout punches past $4, while grocery multi-packs push $8.50 for downsized portions. The formula contains tap water, 20% reconstituted juice from concentrate, glucose syrup, and an aggressive cocktail of acidity regulators and synthetic flavorings. There is no dairy, zero complex fruit solids, and tara gum provides the slippery slide out of the paper tube. It melts into a sticky, syrupy residue that stains your fingers and leaves your throat dry from refined sugar. Format proliferation masks the reality that you are paying premium prices for sweetened tap water in cardboard. Number 7 on our blacklist is the classic Street Splice. Introduced as the ultimate marriage of creamy vanilla and tangy pine lime fruit ice, this Aussie icon trades heavily on coastal nostalgia. Retailing at $9.50 for an 8-pack, it promises real fruit refreshment with a smooth core. But the creamy center is dominated by water, reconstituted skim milk, and vegetable oil, held together with mono and diglycerides and carrageenan. The pine lime coating contains less than 15% actual juice concentrate, leaning on artificial colors 102 and 133 to create that neon green hue. If you leave a splice in a bowl, the green shell drains away into sugary water, while the white center sits like a congealed blob of foam. It is pure texture engineering, designed to save on fresh dairy. If you are already itching to check your own freezer inventory right now, hit that subscribe button because the revelations get significantly worse from here. Coming in at number 6 is Bulla Fairy Breadsticks. Bulla trades relentlessly on its Australian family dairy heritage from Colac, Victoria, which makes this novelty product particularly disappointing. Packed with hundreds and thousands and sold for around $8.50, it targets young children with confectionery branding. Yet an analysis of the ingredient panel reveals a massive payload of vegetable fat, fractionated palm oil in the sprinkle coating, multiple synthetic emulsifiers, and artificial colorings including brilliant blue and allura red. The base ice cream lacks dense butterfat, relying on sodium alginate and guar gum to simulate creaminess. The sensory experience is a waxy, tooth-aching crunch, followed by hollow, sweet foam. Choice consumer reviews note that while Bulla premium tubs remain solid, their kid-targeted novelty sticks use aggressive shortcuts that undermine their local dairy messaging. Number 5 is Street Golden Gaytime. It is arguably Australia's most beloved ice cream, famous for its biscuit crumb and toffee centre. But behind the affectionate cultural memes and $10.54 packs lies a formula that has quietly evolved into an ultra-processed heavy hitter. The signature biscuit coating is bonded with hydrogenated coconut oil and palm shortening, delivering 7.8 grams of saturated fat per stick. The core ice cream uses reconstituted skim milk, glucose, vegetable oil, and emulsifier 476. The once crunchy biscuit crumb frequently turns gummy because moisture-trapping gums struggle in supermarket defrost cycles. Dietitian Dr. Joanna McMillan has consistently pointed out that combining refined vegetable oils with high fructose syrups creates a hyper-palatable product that bypasses natural satiety cues. You get an intense sugar rush, a greasy mouth coating, and an empty calorie load. At number 4, we have Street's Magnum Classic and Almond. Magnum is marketed globally as the gold standard of adult indulgence, charging up to $12 for a 4-pack at Coles and Woolworths. But premium pricing should command flawless quality control and pure ingredients. Over recent years, Magnum batches have faced Food Standards Australia and New Zealand recalls due to the potential contamination of metal and plastic fragments from manufacturing plant failures. On the formulation front, while Magnum utilizes cocoa butter in its outer shell, the interior core is loaded with reconstituted milk, glucose syrup, and vegetable fat stabilized with locust bean gum, guar gum, and carrageenan. The bite provides a rich chocolate crack, but the underlying ice cream melts into a thin, oily broth. You are paying artisan prices for high-volume industrial processing wrapped in gold foil. Taking the third spot is Nui Ice Cream Sticks. Frenary launched Nui with a multi-million-dollar marketing campaign, wrapping sticks in adventurous travel stories featuring Australian macadamia, Scandinavian mountain cranberries, and Texan pecan. A tiny 3-pack retails for a staggering $11 at Woolworths. The packaging screams ethical artisan sourcing, yet a dive into the laboratory profile reveals the exact same industrial foundation as budget sticks. Mono and diglycerides of fatty acids 471, polyglycerol polyricinoleate 476, soy lecithin, and carrageenan. You are paying nearly $4 per stick for 70 milliliters of standard factory dairy inflated with air, dipped in sugar-crusted nuts, and wrapped in adventurous branding. It is textbook marketing theatre over substantive quality. Our runner-up at number 2 is Little Moon's Mochi. Propelled by viral social media trends across TikTok, these bite-sized Japanese-inspired ice cream balls sell for $10.50 for a 6-piece box at Woolworths, working out to over $50 a kilogram. For that exorbitant price, you would expect pure cream and natural fruit purees. Instead, the ingredient list reveals a staggering chemistry stack: modified starch, trehalose, mono and diglycerides, cellulose gum, locust bean gum, and carrageenan, all packed into a tiny 32-gram ball. The mochi dough is thick, rubbery, and overly sweet, masking an interior ice cream that contains minimal fresh cream. Consumers are paying an absurd premium for viral packaging and novelty starch wraps containing standard industrial stabilizers. And finally, the number 1 worst offender on our blacklist, Halo Top. Halo Top completely disrupted Australian supermarket freezers by printing bold calorie counts directly on the lid, charging $11.50 a tub under the promise of guilt-free indulgence. But behind that health halo sits an ultra-processed disaster. To strip out sugar and butterfat, Halo Top substitutes erythritol, stevia leaf extracts, prebiotic-soluble corn fiber, and skim milk powder, pumped full of air and held rigid with carrageenan and vegetable gums. Independent biomedical studies have linked excessive consumption of erythritol to digestive distress, severe bloating, and potential cardiovascular concerns. The texture is notoriously chalky, dry, and icy, requiring 10 minutes of bench thawing just to force a spoon through it. Halo Top charges you a massive premium for sweetened fiber and sugar alcohols that completely disrupt your microbiome while masquerading as health food. Right, here comes the part that made watching this far worth it. Escaping the industrial additive trap does not mean giving up on hot summer treats, and you do not need to spend $20 at an inner-city boutique parlor to get honest ingredients. What defines a genuinely good frozen treat comes down to absolute transparency. Fresh, whole dairy from traceable farms, pure fruit purees instead of reconstituted juices dyed with yellow extracts, minimal natural binders like egg yolks, and a production process that refuses to pump the tub full of compressed factory atmosphere. We scoured Australian supermarket freezers, from Woolworths and Coles to ALDI, Harris Farm, and independent IGAs, testing formulations and laboratory breakdowns to bring you 11 genuine gems that actually earn their spot in your trolley. Starting our countdown at number 11 is Peter's Frosty Fruits Fruity Stack. It sounds surprising after calling out their flagship water ice earlier, but this specific variety stands out in the budget tier. Retailing at $8.50 for an 8-pack, it swaps out heavy synthetic colorings for concentrated apple, beetroot, and spirulina extracts to form its layered fruit sections. It uses a clean pectin binder rather than an aggressive gum matrix. For families hunting an affordable, dairy-free refresher on a searing afternoon without dropping $10 on a boutique box, this is a vastly cleaner choice that proves budget shopping does not have to mean swallowing industrial shortcuts. At number 10 is ALDI Monarch Indulge Super Premium Vanilla. Retailing for just under $7 for a dense 1-litre tub, this is ALDI quietly embarrassing the multinational giants. While competitors load their tubs with skim milk powder and palm fat, Monarch Indulge relies on 37% fresh Australian cream, full cream milk, egg yolk, and authentic ground vanilla bean seeds. It incorporates a modest overrun, making the tub feel heavy and substantial in your hand. In a blind testing panel conducted by consumer advocacy testers, this budget tub scored higher in mouthfeel and pure dairy melt than tubs costing twice as much. The only downside is that it sells out rapidly during heat waves, but for pure value per scoop, it is nearly unbeatable. Number 9 goes to Buller Murray Street Ice Creamery. While Buller's novelty lines rely on commercial shortcuts, their Murray Street range represents a conscious return to authentic Victorian dairy farming. Made in Colac using fresh milk, rich cream, and free-range egg yolks, this range avoids palm oil entirely and keeps stabilizer additions to a bare minimum. When you dig a spoon into the Murray River salted caramel tub, retailing around $11 for a 1-litre tub, it yields with a dense, slow-melting richness that only real butterfat can produce. It is the perfect bridge for shoppers who want legitimate supermarket luxury without paying extreme boutique markups. Coming in at number 8 is Proud & Punch Ice Pops. Stocked across Woolworths and Coles for $8 a pack, these plant-based lollies are built around real crushed fruit, coconut milk, and cold-pressed juice blends. The banana caramel and blood orange varieties contain 0 artificial flavors, no synthetic colors, and rely on real fruit fiber rather than thick carrageenan matrices to provide body. It feels bright, tangy, and hydrating on the tongue without leaving that telltale sticky sugar film at the back of your throat. For parents looking for an honest treat for young kids after school, this delivers pure fruit integrity. At number 7 is Wise Bars, specifically the classic mango and cream. Founded in Toowoomba back in 1957, Wise has stubbornly defended its original manufacturing philosophy for decades. Priced at $9 for a 4-pack, the signature two-tone bar pairs real Kensington Pride mango puree with fresh dairy cream. There are no artificial colors, no palm oils, and no inflated aeration. When you bite into it, the mango side tastes like pure, sun-ripened fruit straight from Queensland orchards, perfectly balanced by the dense cream block beside it. It remains an enduring masterclass in Australian food manufacturing. Number 6 is Gundowring Fine Ice Cream. Available at Harris Farm markets and premier independent IGAs for around $12.50 a tub, this Victorian family farm operation uses milk exclusively from their own pasture-fed herd. The milk goes from the dairy into the churn within hours, preserving natural volatile flavor compounds that factory reconstitution destroys. With 0 emulsifiers and relying entirely on fresh egg yolks, Gundowring offers an unmistakable farmhouse custard profile. The toasted honey and ginger variety delivers a deep, resonant dairy richness that proves why pasture quality directly dictates frozen dessert excellence. At number 5 sits Messina Gelato Tubs. What started as a legendary Sydney storefront has brought genuine Italian gelato technique to supermarket freezers at $14.50 for a 450ml tub. Messina manufactures its own chocolate from raw, single-origin cocoa beans and uses unpasteurized Jersey milk from their private farm in Numurkah. The overrun is kept extraordinarily low, resulting in a dense, elastic consistency that ribbons smoothly under a metal spoon. The hazelnut praline and dulce de leche profiles are intense and complex, devoid of cheap vegetable oil substitutes. It is a genuine luxury treat for discerning dessert lovers. Number 4 is Harry's Ice Cream. Founded in Melbourne, this brand carved out shelf space in Woolworths by rejecting mass-market corner cutting. Retailing around $11, their triple vanilla and burnt caramel varieties are built on rich Victorian dairy cream, egg yolks, and natural vanilla extracts without chemical thickeners. It scoops with an authentic velvety weight and melts into pure cream rather than foamy bubbles. At number 3, we have Panna Organic Frozen Dessert. Selling for $12 a tub, this is the undisputed gold standard for plant-based indulgence. Panna rejects the artificial sweeteners and bulking fibers of diet tubs, using cold-pressed organic coconut milk, raw cacao, and coconut sugar. It delivers a rich, silky, truffle-like density that leaves zero chalky residue. Our runner-up at number 2 is Dooley's Ice Cream. Hailing from Apollo Bay, this multiple gold medal winner at the Australian Grand Dairy Awards is stocked in high-end grocers. Using pure, unadulterated local cream and zero artificial stabilizers, Dooley's offers a legendary level of butterfat purity that coats the palate with real custard richness. And taking our number 1 spot is Connoisseur plant-based and classic gourmet tub range. While mainstream lines cut corners, Connoisseur's super premium range combines real dairy cream, dark Belgian chocolate, and whole macadamias without compromise. It is rich, exceptionally balanced, and sets the definitive benchmark for supermarket quality across Australia. Now that you know what food corporations are hiding behind their retro wrappers and shiny gold foil, here is your practical survival guide for the frozen aisle. Take a quick mental screenshot of these 5 non-negotiable buying rules before you push your trolley through Woolworths or Coles. First, check the legal designation above the barcode. If the pack says frozen dessert or iced confection instead of ice cream, put it straight back on the shelf, because that means the manufacturer swapped out real butterfat for tap water and cheap industrial vegetable oils. Second, flip the container over and inspect the first 2 ingredients. Genuine premium treats list fresh milk, fresh cream, or whole fruit puree right at the top, whereas junk relies on reconstituted milk solids, glucose syrups, and vegetable fat. Third, perform the weight test right there in the aisle. Pick up 2 competing 1-litre tubs and compare their heft, because a light featherweight carton means you are paying hard-earned dollars for 60% whipped factory air, while a dense, heavy tub delivers actual churned dairy. Fourth, treat numbers 471, 476, and carrageenan as instant warning signs, because a heavy reliance on synthetic emulsifiers and thickeners is the classic calling card of a recipe engineered to mask skimped cream. Fifth, ignore front-of-pack buzzwords like guilt-free, light, or keto, because low-calorie tubs almost always trade natural cane sugar for sugar alcohols like erythritol and prebiotic bulking fibers that wreck your digestion. The entire supermarket freezer aisle has spent decades quietly shifting from an authentic local dairy showcase into a high-margin distribution channel for industrial emulsifiers and palm shortening. The secret to protecting your family and your wallet is simply realizing that nostalgic branding does not equal quality, and taking 5 seconds to read the fine print puts you ahead of 99% of consumers. Thank you for watching our investigation. Do your mates and family a massive favor and share this video with them before their next big weekend grocery run. Jump down into the comments right now and tell us, which of these brands is sitting in your freezer at this very moment, and which product should we crack open next? Stay curious, stay informed, and back real Australian ingredients.